I'm going to talk a little Flint, Michigan. At the end of the difference lecture, and I kind of busted through all this stuff, got through it quickly, and I'm going to return to Flint. And at this point, you should have already watched Roger and Me. So if you haven't watched it yet, shut this off and go watch the film, for crying out loud. But I want to talk about what we saw in Roger and Me and connect it to what's happening today, not just in Flint, but I think there's a lot to take from this to connect to the Antelope Valley, to Lancaster, to Palmdale, even Southern California, just in general. All right. So these images here are from I can't remember. Was it 2015, 16? I don't know. When the water stuff went down, when Flint made the news in recent days, not back in the 80s like we saw in the movie, but when the whole water crisis took place. So I was in Flint, just going around. It was my first time being there, and I'd always wanted to see it, mainly because the first time I heard of it was when I first saw Roger and Me back in the 90s, whenever it was I first saw the film. I was always fascinated by just how awful it looked and how these people seem to have gotten screwed. And I wanted to see, what was Michael Moore really showing us here? Was it accurate? Was it fair? That kind of stuff. And what I found is, my God, yeah, that's what the place looks like, today, right? Like you could go there today and see effectively the same place. People are going to be dressed a little differently than we saw in the film, but yeah, not much has changed based on what I've seen. So one thing, and why I bring this up here when we're talking about difference, is the idea of class, which is really the main form of difference in this country. And people will argue and say, what about race? And there's a whole debate on that as to whether race is the most important thing facing individuals, or if it's a class-based thing. I'm not going to dwell on that. It's connected, is the idea. I think it's silly to fight over these things. And the main point, what I'll just say right here, is that race exists because of class. Like, it is connected. And one of the reasons why race is even a thing, it's to help kind of, prop up class divisions and all of that. So they're definitely connected. All right, which is why I want to focus on class here. We'll talk about race down the road, like in depth, more so than we have so far. So class, a really big deal. And one thing that's amazing about Flint, for me, for a Californian, is how pronounced economic class is. In California, Southern California especially, the whole division between working class and upper class folks and a true middle class, it seems so blurred. It's not. I mean, it's there, but it's not as obvious on the landscape like you see in a place like Flint, where with Flint, you've got working class homes, okay? And working class homes in the sense that they are small, modest things that were, homes for auto workers. That's why these things were built in the first place, right? For people who just, have a modest income, they have these modest houses. Here in Southern California, it seems like all we build are these gigantic things. Nothing really looks like this unless you get into some of the older parts of downtown areas and all that. So Flint has a lot of these tiny homes by Southern California standards. Stuff like this is shocking to people who look at this and go, "Oh, how could anyone? How can you fit all your stuff in here? God, if I don't have 3,000 square feet and a 5 bedroom house. I mean, what am I going to do? Right? And you look at these things here, these are simple working class homes. And a lot of the big homes that you see in Roger and Me, they're not here in downtown Flint. They're in the outskirts, right? They're not actually in the spot here. And so you've got some of these homes are nice looking. They've been taken care of. There's upkeep going on, but you have these right here. These homes that have been abandoned. And I might have mentioned in the difference thing, but what shocked me about this stuff is I'm visiting here. Okay, so this is, however many years after Roger and Me, after the 80s. That's when the film takes place, throughout the 80s. It was released in 89, but it was filmed throughout the 1980s. You see images that look eerily similar to this. Hell, this could be one of the same houses that's actually shown in the film, for all I know. What's amazing to me is how stuff is abandoned, and it's permanently abandoned. If you had a house like this, anywhere in Lancaster, Palmdale, and on Southern California in general, yeah, somebody will lose the house. They'll leave it. The bank will foreclose on it, whatever it might be. Somebody's going to swoop in, buy this thing, flip it, turn it around, sell it for a massive profit, and that whole thing will go on. We'll talk more about the idea of flipping things and gentrification and all that in the second half of the semester. We'll get into urban geographies and suburban geographies and stuff like that. But in Flint, that doesn't happen because there's just no market for it. It's effectively what people with money are saying is that Flint has no future. And it hasn't had a future back in the 80s. It doesn't today. I mean, it's just shocking how abandoned it's been. And you see in the film, and you see with modern news stories and all that the people who are getting screwed, it's the working class folks, right? And so if we, let me get out of here. Let's go back to our film. I want to talk about just the film itself here, right? And the idea of what Michael Moore is doing. So we'll talk a little bit about the content, but I also want to get into the form of the film because that's important to do. It's important to look at what is this filmmaker doing? What's this person showing me? What's this person not showing me? How are different images stitched together to make me feel a certain way and all that? We always want to be aware of that. So one of my favorite scenes, I'll just play this and talk over it. I think it's a little work. But this whole Great Gatsby party thing and the polo is fantastic. And it just this looks awful. Absolutely. And then the human statues, and of course, very obvious color differences, right, between the people who are walking around having a great time and the people who are hired to be human statues. So you see rich people, all right, after we've seen stuff falling apart too, and you've got these kinds of folks who are going it's everything is rough, but it's not that bad. And if we fast forward, let me get to this guy, so obnoxious. Let me see. I think I can. We're gonna okay. Well, here I'll just let it play. Talks about how we create the Industrial Revolution in this country, which is a lie. It was a British thing, number one. But he's getting into how we build cars and we do stuff. We're amazing. We're gonna come back to him, I think. Yes, here we go. What advice do you have? That advice. Good Lord. Good Lord. You get up. Go do something. I mean, it's just classic advice from people who haven't had to struggle at all, right? And you could probably talk to this guy, and he would say, "What are you talking about? Oh, I've struggled. I've had to work for everything." No, I don't buy it because what I've found is quite often there's a correlation between people who give that kind of advice. What should I do? Get up, do something, go. Just seize the day. those people who actually say that and are from a position of having succeeded, they're either delusional or they never had to struggle, they never had to work. And what's awful, I don't want to point to any one specific person, but I see this in college. And it's not even just at AVC, but it's just an overall like university system thing. This is something we do to our students. It was done to me. It's one of those deals where it's like, yeah, you want to do so? Well, go to school, get yourself an education. That's the best thing you can do. Do that, world's your oyster. You're gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be no, no. I think one thing that is incredibly important to state, and I'll be stating it to you here and probably repeat it a few times in the class, is that getting a college degree absolutely useless if you don't do it right. All right, if you don't use it as a part of it, like a tactic within a larger strategy to be successful in society, in our economic system. But what a lot of folks trying to get you to go to college will say, whether it's well-intentioned high school teachers or counselors, or well-intentioned counselors and people here at ABC or at other places. Like, nobody's saying this to be a dick. Nobody's trying to be evil and all of that. But what a lot of people are saying is like, I don't know, just you do this and you're set for life. No, it's not a guaranteed thing, right? And a lot of it is luck, being in the right place at the right time. The fact that I have this very coveted tenured position here at AVC, and you might think like, well, AVC, that's an exciting place to work. First off, how dare you? This is our school, right? Show it some respect. But B, yeah, to have a tenured position at any level with community colleges, Cal State universities, UCs, whatever, and that is really hard to get to the point where a lot of people aren't picky about where they're actually working, right? No, I realize how fortunate I am, and I realize it was dumb luck. It was a lot of right place, right time, and yeah, I mean, I worked to be eligible for it, to have the credentials, to impress the interview committee or whatever. But still, it's a lot of luck that takes place. So this kind of advice of just get up and do something, it's going to be fine. It's garbage, and I'll talk more about that as we go on. But you see this throughout the film, that you have all of these people who are doing fine, and what advice do you have? Well, just buck up and try hard and useless, meaningless. It's the same you see like motivational posters in office buildings or stuff online and like different social media things where you'll see these beautiful sunsets and have some motivational thing, and it's supposed to make you go like, oh, I'm inspired to go make a new app or whatever. It doesn't really get to the heart of this stuff, so it drives me crazy, all of this going on here, which is why I share it with you. But we got all this right here. And let's, I guess let me just play this now. So yeah, and they talk about playing hockey. I mean, my God, how can you take advice from people dressed like this? Number one, right? This is no good. But they continue talking about how great it is. Yeah, there's ballet, hockey, great place to live. And then we pair this, all right? So here's what happened, getting into what Michael Moore does with his film here. It's this juxtaposition, right, of the two classes at play. So what he's really showing here in this film, at least as I see it, is that there is this two-class society. All right, that's the key thing with Roger and Me. That in Flint, and you can take this further, as I'll say in a little bit, you can expand this to other parts of the country. There's a clear two-class society at play. So it's the haves and the have-nots, however you want to think about that. And the way in which Michael Moore is conveying this, trying to get this message across, is through this editing, right? Through the different scenes that are being shot and paired together here. So you go from the Great Gatsby party, get up, do stuff, and then you get Deputy Fred right here, right? It's going from everything's okay to everything's miserable. And we see Fred throughout the film going in here, evicting people. This guy is amazing. But it's heartbreaking too, where you hear like he admits that he worked in the automotive factories, had to get out, played tricks on your mind, felt like a prison in there. I mean, that's something that we don't really talk about. We like to talk about bringing manufacturing back to this country, getting good jobs and all that. Working in a factory is not a good job in the sense that you're going to go and you'll be like, yay, everything's fantastic. Yeah, you might get paid a livable wage there, but there's a lot of psychological warfare going on with labor inside of these factories. It's not all sunshine here, right? When you have a job. So I think that's an important thing where he talks about that later on when he's evicting somebody. So you got that, but it's he talks about seeing some of his best friends he's put out on the street. I mean, it's heartbreaking, and you also look in these houses and you're not seeing a lot of extravagant living, right? There's one point where he talks about some people bought school clothes before they paid the rent, and you got to have your priorities straight and all that. But what it's the kind of thing like I don't think buying school clothes was the problem there. I think it's more of a case of the money's just not there for this rent, right? For these folks, and the idea, of course, the reason why people are getting kicked out is because of all of this downsizing that's going on with GM, right, and other corporations at the time. And see, here we go again, paired, right, back with these opulent mansions and all that. So we see the working class folks, how little they have, and then we go to these people who are doing just fine. And the big thing here with GM and the layoffs and all that is the idea that it's not that GM is struggling, as Michael Moore explains in the beginning. They're profitable, everything's going great, and it's an effort to become more profitable. Shut down these domestic plants, relocate them somewhere else, and take these savings and invest them in other stuff. But the idea is you don't invest in the workers, right? You don't help these folks out. You don't help Flint out. What you're doing is you're helping the corporate board and the shareholders and the people who stand to actually make profits from what the company is doing. That's back in the 80s. Right? That shouldn't sound too foreign to you, though. Now, in the 21st century, I mean, this is what's been going on. And I think one really important thing to take away from this for college students, for people who are, well, whether you're just starting out and exploring stuff, or whether you're well on your way and you know what degree you want and what career you want and all that, you need to look at stuff like this and see what's happened in the past, what's happening now, and plan accordingly. You should have this mercenary approach to what you do to make money once you leave school, once you have that degree, once you're ready to go on, right? There's a lot of this was big a few years. I haven't heard it recently, but it was really back when the original millennials are all the same and they're all terrible and they're ruining America. And what I love too is everybody still complains about millennials. I think millennials are like 80 years old now. We've got a few other generations that are actually ruining America now, but millennial just sounds good. So all of us old people, we use that. But one thing was millennials today. The big problem is they don't have any loyalty to companies. That they'll wind up, you working at a job for a few years and then they quit and they go elsewhere. And I mean that makes it hard for business owners to hire people and all that. And yeah, you should not have any loyalty to companies because of stuff like this. We've been warned about this for decades, right? That loyalty to a company is probably going to screw you. ultimately here. There was a time when, yeah, like if we're in the 1960s, yeah, you could, leave high school and you could go get a job at a place like in manufacturing with something like this, or working in the office of some big corporation, and you could do that job for 30 years and have a retirement, and every like your life would be set. You wouldn't have to worry about health insurance or retirement or just making rent or buying a house or any of that stuff. For a lot of people, they were able to do that. And I say a lot of people, of course, a lot of white folk, straight white guys. Oh, we could do it. Other people, not so much. But still, that was the general idea, right? The story we told here in this country. But it's clear, starting in the 80s, that's off the table, right? That you don't have that guarantee. I think one story I always tell students, it's back before the last job I had outside of academia, before I started teaching full time here at AVC. I worked in this planning department. I was a map guy, and I was actually in charge. Oh, I hated it. I was a boss. I was like middle management, which was awful. Yeah, don't. I mean, if you want to do it, great. I don't ever want to have like employees under me ever again because it just sucks, and I felt like a fascist and all of that. But the thing was, I got this job, and I was young. I don't remember exactly how old I was when I did this, but I think it was in my 20s. When I got this job, I got this management job, and I start and I'm introduced to the three employees underneath me, and one of these guys is old, right? Like in his 60s. I think at the time he's an older gentleman, and I'm shocked and immediately uncomfortable because I don't want to be the boss of like my dad, right? It felt very weird and not cool and all that, and so I get to know this guy. His name was Wally, and great guy, wonderful human being, and his life story fascinated me, terrified me, upset me. I mean, it was just amazing. Turned out this guy, he did the thing where he, went to high school, graduated high school, walked into an office, filled out an application, got a job with an oil company, okay, in Central California, and got this job. He was making maps for the oil company. They trained him. He didn't, take classes in high school to prepare him for this or whatever. They trained him what to do, which is a laughable thing. I remember my parents always thinking like, when you get hired at a place, they'll train you to do what you need. No, that doesn't exist anymore. That's a thing of the past. So don't expect that. But back then, for Wally, they trained him what to do, and he worked in this job, was loyal to this company, was doing it, was actually, was making decent money. Everything, life was good for this guy. And he was about, I want to say it was like 3 years away from retirement. And he'd have the pension and he'd be set. Life is good. Except the oil company decides, you know what, we're gonna restructure. We're gonna downsize. And they close the building where he's working, right? They lay everybody off. And of course, what that means is all that retirement gone, right? That guarantee of being able to live and, into your golden years and all that vanishes. And of course, he's not saving. He doesn't have a 401k or stuff like that because nobody had that at the time. And it's the idea that you foolishly believe that, well, this company said if I keep working for them and I do a good job and all that, I'll have this retirement, right? Not thinking that they would, screw him and everyone else at the end of this time, right? And I'm sure was calculated to save themselves lots of money so they don't have to do it. And you might say like, well, how is that legal? Everything is legal when it comes to, money and all that. There are ways to do that, or the things we sign initially. There are ways to, get out of that and so on. So yeah, they give him nothing whatsoever. And so now he's got these skills that are specific to this one job. It's very difficult for him to turn it around and to, parlay this into some other career. Right? Same thing with these auto workers. So there's a scene, yeah, I don't remember where it is in here. Somewhere, and it's the Taco Bell scene. Right? It's just kind of fun to look through here and see all these awful people. In Rabbit Lady, I don't know. There's Golden Girls, love them. Let's just look at these ladies for a little bit. These are some of my favorites. Again, welfare is so good. People don't want to work, I think, that kind of stuff. But no, it's the idea that if you're working, well, it's confused now. If you're working at the auto plants, you're trained in this very narrow way. You know how to do one thing over and over and over, but you don't have these transferable skills. Right? So it's not easy to go on and find some other job unless there's another auto plant that needs you, to do the same kind of work. And there isn't, because they're shutting down in this area. So there's the one thing about the ex-auto workers all go to Taco Bell and they all get fired. And it's miserable. I mean, can you imagine how awful that would be? Like, Taco Bell is going to be your savior here, right? And so that was the thing with Wally. He's kind of moving around trying to find something that will work for him. Eventually, after a few little jobs here and there, he gets hired on with this county agency where I was now working, and his whole game was he had to work for 10 years. And if he worked for 10 years, the government pension stuff would kick in. It wouldn't be great, but that combined with Social Security and Medicare and all that stuff, he could live, right? He could stop working, he could retire and live a modest life, all right? Yeah, and that's, the 10 years, like, he starts that when he should have retired. He now has to commit a decade to working, at this point in his life. Now, this guy, sweet, kind man, and was a good worker, but he took naps all the time. He would just fall asleep at his desk. And my God, knowing his life story, even though I was his boss, I would never wake him up at all. It was like, you sleep on, Wally, you do it, because life has screwed you, and the least we can give you as a society is a 10-minute nap at your desk, because good Lord. And so hearing this, that freaked me out, right? It made me, really, again, it's that mercenary thing where it's, what do I need to do to ensure that I'm as safe and secure and can retire and, can have financial stability at the end of all this, right? And it's something I want you guys to think about as you're going through, because I know people are saying, look, just get a degree, man. Just get even an associate's degree. You just do that 2-year degree. It's going to make you set, and you're going to have this and this and this, and you're going to be okay, and we'll show you all sorts of statistics. Don't fall for it, all right? It's not just the degree. Definitely get the degree, because that's going to make life easier, but you also need to have skills that are valuable. Right? So the days of simply having a college degree and being set, those are long gone. Right? We used to have those where you could get a degree in anything, and as long as you had it, you were good. No, not the case. And it's a shame, because a lot of the degrees that don't guarantee you a job, they're some of the best degrees to get. They'll train you to think. They'll get you to see the world in different ways and all that, but they're useless when it comes to getting work, right? So I would never say, like, don't waste your time with a philosophy degree. Philosophy is fantastic. I would, gladly support my own children to get a bachelor's or a master's or a doctorate in philosophy, unlike my father, who, used that as an example of what you couldn't do. No, I'm all for it. But you also have to have that approach of, okay, what am I going to do with this thing? How am I going to survive? And part of that survival is, how am I going to make sure I don't wind up like these auto workers in Flint, where everything seems to be going okay, and then just the world vanishes around me, and I'm left on my own and abandoned by this company, by the rest of the country, by society in general, because that's really what took place. All right, that's what you need to think about. And I'll talk about some stuff like, I'll talk about GIS, which is an incredible skill to have. This computerized mapping stuff, it's not for everybody, but it's a thing that not everybody learns. And if you just simply do that, you take a few of these classes, have that skill that a company is going to want, they're going to want to hold on to you because you have this great skill. And if they, go bankrupt or they lay everybody off or you get fired or whatever, you still have the skill that can go to all sorts of different places. You can have that mercenary approach. Whereas if you don't learn a skill like that, if you simply get that bare minimum associate's, bachelor's degree, whatever, good luck, right? In selling your skills that, well, I can write really good term papers. That doesn't get you a job, right? So it's a complex thing. But just think about that. Think about Wally, and what he went through. Think about what these folks have gone through, and then think about what does that mean for you guys. Now, another thing here, let's see if I can get this working here. I might have pushed it too hard. Let me get into the other thing that I think is really important to think about. Okay, good Lord. Monsters. No, I don't want that. Let me go in here. Let's resume this. Yes, okay, let's scoot forward. Here, let's talk about the tourism, because that's another great thing where you're looking at how places are trying to come back, right? Trying to deal with the loss of other jobs or trying to just make life better, right? For the people in the city itself. Tourism is a way to do that. Let's try to attract people to our city, and we'll sell all that. And so that's what's going on here. Now, if we were in class, this would be a lot easier to do. We could be talking about it. But I bring up with students like, what, does this make you think of anything? The whole, tourist thing, the revitalizing downtown, trying to attract people to the area. And of course, the answer hopefully you come up with is Boulevard. All right? Lancaster Boulevard. The Boulevard. That's this kind of stuff. And we can, mock the people of Flint and like the auto world thing. And the fact that they talk about the one hotel that has the city's only escalator, this Hyatt Regency thing here, and everybody kind of chuckles when they watch that in class. I can hear the students chuckle. Here it is. Do we have an escalator anywhere in the Antelope Valley? I don't think we do. Maybe we do in the mall. I don't know. But it's just, it's kind of mocking how sad this is. And of course it fails. And what we need to remember is like, oh my God, this is what we're doing in a place like Lancaster, right? We try to do this stuff to increase tourism and tax revenues and things like that. Yeah, it didn't work well here. The Boulevard is one of those things where millions of dollars went into it. I don't know if we made our money back. And to be fair, it's California paid for a lot of this stuff. It was through grant programs, things that no longer exist after the last recession we got rid of. But we always kind of wonder, like, why is it so expensive to live in California? As part of it, it's because of the Boulevard. It's because we use public tax dollars to pay for this stuff, and then that's what we don't have money for schools and things like that. But yeah, think about the Antelope Valley. Not only do we have this tourism thing, what's our economy look like? Do we have one massive industry that we rely on here? Yeah, right? The aerospace, right? We've got Edwards Air Force Base, then we've got Lockheed and Northrop and all these, military defense contractors, and that's why the Antelope Valley exists. Why it is the size that it is, why we, have the actual cities that we have here. Now, the one good thing is, with military stuff, it's a little harder to, offshore that stuff, to open up plants in Mexico or, wherever, and to lose American jobs. It's a little harder. but it's not impossible. But still, we feel very Flint-like, I think, with a lot of this, and it's something you guys should think about, especially a lot of you guys who want to go work for some of these corporations and, tie into that. I'm not going to say don't do it, but I'm going to say be careful as you do it. And, to get just that entry level job and I think you're going to be okay, yeah, it's questionable, right? And what's really crazy too is back when we got the contract to build the new stealth bomber. I don't know if you guys remember that. It was a few years ago now. But like these, $1 billion contract to design the next stealth bomber. I thought the one we have now, that bat plane looking thing, it was pretty state of the art and fancy, but no, we can't rest. We got to build new stuff. So, at least $1 billion to design some new bat planes so we can drop bombs on people around the world. Okay, fantastic. So everybody in the AV was like, "Yay, money!" Coming to us. But at that same time, bunch of places down in the greater Los Angeles area that also work in aerospace and defense stuff and all of that. Massive layoffs because those contracts were being axed, I guess, to go toward the stealth bomber stuff, right? Which is good for us, bad for the people of Long Beach or wherever it was. But it should also serve as a reminder: we're not immune to this stuff. There's no reason why we have to keep getting this money here. So just be aware, right? That's what I really want you to take from this: is be aware, be afraid of what could happen, and it doesn't mean to just live in fear and life is gonna suck and it's all miserable and just drop out now. And no, no, we're in this system. All right, the idea of having a full-on revolution where life will be perfect, it's not going to happen anytime soon. I'll say that's a long-term goal. But for the rest of us, we have to live in this society. We have to figure out strategies and tactics to be successful here. That's what I want you guys to have, because we do a terrible job of training you at the college level as to what to do, right? And one of the problems is we have this very like Ivy League approach towards stuff. Yeah, if you go get that Harvard or Yale degree or whatever, you're going to be fine, right? Because those people take care of those people. If you're at a community college, yeah, it's not the same club, right? So you need to have these tools, have these skills, have all of that stuff so you can avoid these kinds of issues, right? That's all I'm saying here. So just be aware of that. That's the big stuff I want to get into with this. Hopefully you enjoyed the film. Can't really talk to you guys in class like immediately after watching it and get the response. But hopefully you took something from it. But continue to think about it, right? And also think about class and how that works, and use that as a lens to study this kind of economic news. What's happening now? We're due for a good depression with all this COVID stuff that's been going on. The U.S. economy is not going to be doing well. Be prepared, right? And I'll continue to talk about this stuff, and we'll talk about globalization and the last recession and how a lot of this stuff is all connected. We'll keep doing that. You just keep thinking about it. All right, that was depressing. Next time, whatever I talk about, I'm sure it will be about puppies and kittens and stuff like that. We'll have real pick-me-up stuff after this. All right, geographers, stay strong.